Hey traders, trend lines are one of the most powerful tools in trading, but the problem is most traders are still using them completely wrong. The most confusing part about trading trend lines is that every trader seems to draw them differently. Take any chart, for example. Some traders might prefer to draw the trend line connecting the wicks of the candles, while others might prefer to draw it connecting the bodies of the candles. So which one is actually correct? And even if we figured out how to draw them perfectly, the next big question is, how do we actually trade them? Should we wait for the price to touch the trend line and enter by anticipating a bounce? Or should we wait for the price to break the trend line, anticipating a trend reversal to short it? The truth is, I have tried all of these approaches, but throughout my trading career, I have discovered the best way to trade trend lines, which to this day have made me a lot of profit. In this video, I will reveal the best strategy for trading trend lines, including an in-depth tutorial on how to actually draw them properly on your chart. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. First, what is a trend line exactly? A trend line is simply a straight line drawn on a chart that connects two or more swing points in price. When you look at any market, you will notice that price is constantly fluctuating, moving up and down repeatedly. So with all these erratic movements happening, how can we tell where the market is actually heading? Simple. We draw a trend line. By drawing a straight line connecting the swing lows on the chart, we can see if the trend line is heading in an upward slope. What this tells us is that despite these short-term fluctuations in price, the overall market trend is up. Now, if we apply a trend line by connecting the swing highs instead, and we see that the trend line is sloping downwards, it means that despite the short-term fluctuations, the overall market trend is down. A common question you might be asking is, can't we already tell where the overall market is heading just by looking at it? Why do we even need trend lines? The answer is simple. Trend lines do more than just show the trend. They also help us spot trade setups that we otherwise wouldn't have spotted if we looked at the charts with the naked eye. In the past, price tends to bounce off the trend line every time it touches it. This tells us that in the future, if price ever approaches the trend line again, there is a high probability that we can expect another bounce. Secondly, if price breaks a trend line, it could signal a possible change in trend direction, giving us an opportunity to catch a massive reversal. Now, before we start trading with trend lines, we first need to know how to actually draw them properly, because if you get this wrong, the strategies will not work anyway. Here is an in-depth guide on exactly how I draw trend lines. To draw a trend line, we first need to identify something called swing points in the price. A swing point is when price moves into an area and then moves away from it. For example, if price went down and then reverses back up, this lowest point before the price moves away is called a swing low. Our job is to find as many of these swing points as possible on the chart. However, the key here is to only mark the swing points that are major and obvious to spot. So only mark the ones that stand out. There needs to be at least two major swing points in order for us to be able to draw a valid trend line. So, once you have identified them, simply draw a straight line connecting them. Now, the most common question people ask when drawing a trend line is, should I draw them touching the wicks of the candles, or should I draw them touching the bodies of the candles? The answer is whichever gets you the most touch points. If you draw a trend line by touching the wicks and you get a total of 3 touch points, but if you draw it touching the bodies, you get a total of 5 touch points, then you should absolutely draw it touching the candle bodies. Another extremely important thing to keep in mind is that trend lines should be treated like areas or zones instead of fixed lines. So when drawing them, as long as the trend line is still within the general area of the swing points, the trend line is still valid. It does not matter if you draw it slightly higher or slightly lower, because a trend line is supposed to be treated as a general area, just like support and resistance. I just revealed to you the ultimate trend line trading guide that you can easily implement right now. All I ask for in return is for you to invest 2 seconds of your time into liking the video and subscribe to the channel. It literally takes only 2 clicks, but it means so much to me. And you can also check out my other videos as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.